Hello, my name's Linda and I'm going to be making 4 cards today. So I've been making a couple of videos where cards for beginners, so really simple cards. And these are a little bit, so I'm making them a little bit harder as we go. Not that these are difficult to make, but we're just adding a few elements, adding some die cuts, etc. I'm using this really pretty paper today. It's a really lovely pad. I think it was Craft Consortium, I think the pad is, and I will put that on so everybody knows. It's got some lovely paper, 6x6 pad, and you also get, or you can also purchase these wooden beetles and moths, and there's also some little specimen and botany labels as well. I'm going to do a tiny bit of stamping today as well. We're just going to be using this stamp here. I'm possibly using some pearls, and we're making these are 13.5 centimetre square cards, or 5 1/4 inches. I've already cut my paper out ready, so I'm using some of this really pretty green. This is soft sea foam. This is Stampin' Up's paper, and I've cut this out at 5 by 5 or 12.7 centimetres square. That's going to go on the base of our card. I'm going to be doing this on 3 of our cards, so it's going to be like this. And then I've chosen some paper, and I've cut these at 4 3/4 square or 12 centimetre squares, and they're going to be layering on the top. So as I said, going to be quite simple cards. One of them's going to be slightly different, but I'll show you that as we're making them. I'm also going to be using some leaf dies today. I've cut these out in the colours that are close to the paper, and I've also using some layers as well. And I've actually made some kits up that I've put on my Rainbow Cards and Crafts eBay. So if you're interested, just type that in and you can purchase those. You get 10 of each, 10 leaves and 10 of the layers. So card 1, I have all my pieces together that I'm going to try to make my card with. I'm going to start as normal. This is my card base. I've got my first layer. I'm going to stick that on. And my paper layer that I've chosen with these really pretty beetles and moth. It's all double-sided. I'm going for this one. I'm going to put that on there. So put that one on first. So just thin glue around the edge, but not too close so it doesn't squeeze out. A little bit more in the middle. That way you can wiggle it around if you need to. Gives you a bit of time to move it around so you can get it in the centre. So you've got a nice little border all the way around. Make sure your card's opening up the correct way, and that's going to go in the centre there. This is a lovely, easy way of building up a card, especially for beginners. Just lots of layers. So I have my sort of postage stamp edge, and I've cut a piece of grey cardstock there that I'm going to put in the middle. Now I want to do a bit of stamping today. I'm going to stamp onto my grey. I'm using the Stampin' Up woven heirlooms. I'm just going to be using this one at the bottom, and I'm also using basic grey ink, which is the same colour as my cardstock. I'm just going to be stamping just randomly all over the back. And there you go. I just want it to break it up a little bit so it wasn't quite as stark. And then I'm just going to stick that into the middle of our sort of postage stamp. And now we're going to build the card up. So I've got some vellum and some soft sea foam leaves here. I'm going to arrange where I want them to go. So I'm going to put my moth in the centre of my postage stamp there. I'm just going to use some wet glue. And then I'm going to start sticking my leaves down. So I'm using wet glue for the card, and the vellum I'm going to be using some double-sided tape. If you put wet glue behind your vellum, you will see it. You'll see it through. And make sure that your leaves don't go above the card. So you still want to be able to get your card into your envelope. And then I'm going to use a fair amount of glue to stick the moth to the centre of the card. And my little sentiment, I've just stuck that down with a bit of snail glue, and the card will then nearly be finished. And there's card number 1. Not too tricky at all, but really quite pretty. So let's go on to card number 2. So I'm going to be using the beetle this time. So I'm going to start the same, but this time I'm going to wrap, it's got some just some twine here. I'm going to wrap that around the centre of my patterned piece of paper. And now I'm going to glue this as normal onto my soft sea foam base. So as with the first card, I've decided to do a little bit of stamping on the centre again, and I'm going to stick that into my postage stamp like I did before. This time I've got a double layer, so I've used a grey as well. Exactly the same as the first card. I'm putting my beetle instead of my moth into the centre, and then we're going to arrange where we want our leaves to go and stick those down. Now I'm just going to stick this layer onto the base of my card. Always make sure you've got your card around the opening the right way before you stick it down. And then we're just going to glue this into the centre of the card, and then I'm going to put my specimen label at the bottom. You could always use happy birthday or thank you there instead of that if you'd like. And there's our second card. Put that to one side. Card number 3, and I'm going to be using this moth this time. This paper, really pretty. I'm going to stick it straight onto my soft sea foam, and this is going to be slightly different, so we're not going to be doing sort of square layer on square layer. We're going to do a slightly different design. Stick this to the card base. I have some of this, this is burlap ribbon, and this is a Stampin' Up product. I'm going to be sticking that across the bottom, and I've got some more of the leaves that I've cut out. So then we're just going to lay out our design and stick these pieces down. On the back of my piece of burlap ribbon, I'm going to use a snail. I'm just sticking that down onto my card, and I'm going to stick my little specimen on. We used a bit of snail for that as well. I'm using glue dots for my moth because I don't think it would stick onto the ribbon very well. And then I'm going to add a couple of little adhesive pearls. That's card number 3. One more to go. So the last card is a little bit different again. So I'm actually going to be layering up. So we've got some at the top and then another layer down the bottom. So I've actually cut this soft sea foam at 10 centimetres by 12, or 4 3/8 by 3 7/8, and the paper is at 10.7 centimetres by 12.7 centimetres, or 5 inches by 4.5 inches. But whatever paper you're using, you just need to cut the paper to fit. So I'm going to have a nice little background there, and this one's going to be at the bottom. I've got another piece of burlap. I've got a botany label there, and I'm going to be putting some of my leaves across here, like so. So this one is actually quite simple, so I'm going to start putting this one together. I really love this paper, but it was a 6x6 pad, and I couldn't get the whole of a bottle on the full sheet, so I designed the card around the paper because I really like the paper. I'm going to stick that to the card base and put that at the top. I'm going to stick this to my piece of burlap. And then my leaves I'm going to glue at each end here. A bit of snail glue on the back of my ribbon again, and then I'm going to try to centre that. Now this one is actually a really quick card to make. And there we go, card number 4 finished. So I'll bring all the cards in so we can have a quick look at them all. And here's all 4 cards. They make quite a nice little set actually. You could pack them up and give them to somebody as a gift if you didn't want to use them yourself. So I hope you enjoyed watching this video and it was helpful for you. Please give me a thumbs up if you did. Don't forget, if you go onto my Rainbow Cards and Crafts, you can buy the little kit that I've made up here of the die cuts, and I've got other things on there as well if you're interested. So thanks for watching. Bye.